Hey guys, I'm April from Giggle Glitter Graphics, and today we are assembling Whiskerwind Post. This is a limited time free project that went out to my email list today. But if you're not on the list and you'd like to join us, you can find a link in the description down below, and you can sign up and have this project sent to you immediately. This project is only available for the month of September 2025. On October 1st, it will go up for sale in my Etsy shop. Whiskerwind Post is a fantasy post office where the mail is delivered by winged cats called flitterpaws. The delivery service is run by a group of women who have the special ability to communicate with the flitterpaws. Together, they sort and deliver letters and small packages to the residents of the town. This little folio explores the post office, gives you a little bit of information about it, and ends with a cute pop-up of the front desk, which you can customize a little bit by choosing the post office clerk. So let's talk about printing and supplies. This project has 7 pages, 6 sheets of pieces, and 1 backer paper. All of the pages are printed on cardstock. I use 110-pound cardstock, and the backer paper only needs to be printed on the reverse side of the sheet with the larger panels on it. And it's going to look like this. So the sheet with both of these on them. Supplies you're going to need are scissors to cut everything out, a liquid glue with a fine point. We're going to be making a couple of envelopes and pockets today that are going to need a thin line of glue, so you're going to need that fine point. An optional glue stick for some of the cards that glue back to back, and optional distress ink. I used vintage photo distress ink on the edges of everything. You may also find a bone folder and a scoreboard handy, but they're not necessary for this. I do think a bone folder gives you nice sharp creases, but you can use your thumbnail or the back of your scissors. So let's start by assembling the main body of the folio. I'm going to shuffle all these extra pieces off to the side, and we are going to keep this larger piece here. If you're not sure how to cut this out, we are going to fold this in half, like so. There is a line across here. So once you fold it in half, you can just cut that out really quickly with your scissors. We're also going to need the background for the front desk and this tile pattern. And then these 2 tabbed panels, Whiskerwind Post and the one with all the little post office boxes on it. Everything else can go to the side for now. We have a couple of folds to do first, and then we can assemble the folio. So as I noted on this piece, there is a line that runs right through here. We're going to fold along that line. Then after you've folded that line, you're going to fold this tab over. We want to make sure that this folds over nice and neat and can go totally flat against the back of it without any buckling or anything happening here. And then once you get this piece folded, let's just go ahead and glue that back to back. You can use a glue stick if you want. I am going to use my liquid glue, and I'm going to give this a coating of glue right inside, not on the tab, just in between the 2 printed pieces. And this is going to make a nice sturdy flap for us to build on. And then I'm going to press that down and give that a quick smooth with my bone folder. So now you have something that looks like this with a little tab on it. For the 2 side panels, these both have a little bit of a spine on them. Let's see if I can get that to focus. It's not going to focus very well, but there's a small spine on both of these pieces. So that means you're going to need to fold on both sides of that spine. So you're going to have the spine, the tab, and then a larger panel. So go ahead and make the folds on both of these pieces. Once everything is folded, you might want to add a little distress ink into this crease here, because when we open this up, this little crease might show. And I'm going to add a little bit of a heavier ink along here, because I'm not sure exactly how much of that is going to show. We are building a pop-up along here, so a lot of that is going to be covered as well, but it's hard to go back in and ink later, so I'm going to go ahead and get a bunch on there right now. So let's start with our post office front counter, and let's grab the Whiskerwind Post panel. This panel is going to attach on the left-hand side, and the tab is going to insert right under the left-hand side of the counter. then when it folds over, you're going to have this little spine. It's going to leave room. So the glue is only going to go on this tab, not on the spine. Let's make sure that it's right side up. Give it a little flip, and then glue right along just the tab on this piece. And then I'm going to take my counter and just place that right along that crease. Now this only has to go to a 90-degree angle. We don't have to worry about it folding all the way over flat. So just make sure that you can make this kind of a shape with it after you have it together. And now we're going to repeat that for the right-hand side. We're going to have the post office boxes facing up. We're going to put glue only on the tab, and then we're going to place that right under the front counter. And I'm going to go right up to that line, like so. And then we want to make sure this will fold up. So we'll have a little spine there. And it will be at a 90-degree angle when it's closed. And here is the back side, if you were wondering what that looks like so far. So it just looks like that. And now this last piece, white side of the tab is up, and that is going to glue right underneath of the counter space. And we're going to center this up. It should be just a little more narrow than this panel. Just a tiny bit of room on either side of it. So glue on the unprinted part of the tab. Going to place this centered up right on top. And then this does need to fold up as flat as possible. So I'm going to fold this all the way up and firm up that crease. And you can see our little clock peeks through that notch. Here's the back side. And this is the inside of the folio. So now we have this kind of an action that folds all the way up into our final folio. Now let's go ahead and flip this over. And we have this panel with the matching round bump out. That is just going to glue on the back side to cover up all of those tabs. And again, you can use a glue stick if you like. I would make sure that you glue all the way up to the edges. That way nothing gets caught when you're moving this around later and people are handling it. And I'm going to make sure I line up at the top. It's okay if there's a little bit of a line here at the bottom. I'm going to use my bone folder to smooth that piece down. Now, since we have this all flattened out this way, we have a couple of pieces to add to this side of it. We've got the day's deliveries, and that is going to get glued directly down to the back panel, right over top of that tile pattern. So I'm just going to put some glue on that. Again, I'm going to go right up to the edges as close as I can without making too much of a mess so that those pieces don't get caught later. Damaged. Get that as smooth. And then I'm going to slide over, and we've got the Welcome to Whiskerwind post, a post office like no other. And we're going to center that up on this panel here, on the left side as we're looking at it. And I'm going to glue that entirely down. These pieces are decorative, but they also give us a little extra structure to the piece. Make things thicker and bulkier. All right, with those on, let's go ahead and flip over, and we're going to add a couple of things to the sides on the inside. Let's start with the left-hand side. The left-hand side, we've got kind of a postage stamp background piece that's going to glue directly down, and then a tuck pocket that's going to glue right over top of that. So this is going to add some structure to this panel, as well as a little bit of interest. We're going to glue this all the way down. And I'm just going to center it top and bottom and put it not quite all the way to that crease. And then smooth it down. And now this little tuck with the envelopes on it, that is going to go all the way to the left-hand side. We're going to flip this, hold it on the left when it's upside down, and then glue the top, bottom, and what is the right side when it's upside down, the left side when it's right side up. Just a thin line of glue. We're going to turn this into a pocket. And I'm going to go all the way up to the edge. On the right-hand side, we have this curved panel and then this little belly band. It's got these postage stamps on it. Again, we're going to make a tuck pocket right here on the right, and we're going to glue only the straight edges, not the curved. So I'm going to hold the curved side. I just kind of flip that over top to bottom and then flip it back. And we're going to line it up all the way to the right. And then this belly band, if you kind of move it around a little bit, you'll find a sweet spot where it lines up with the curve here and the straight edge here. We're just going to put a little glue under either end because our key is going to tuck down under there. So a little glue on either side, find that sweet spot, and just tap that into place. Now let's go ahead and flip this center panel up. I'm going to give this a good crease again. I want to make sure it's laying down relatively flat. And there is a little rectangular piece here. The air is alive with the flutter of wings. And that is going to become a pocket right here on this panel. So I'm going to grab my glue and I'm going to do the left, right, and bottom. Like so. And I'm just going to put it towards the bottom. I'm going to leave a little bit of room. I want that kind of tile print to show, but I want to leave plenty of room to tuck things into the pocket. So now we have the structure of the folio assembled. Let's work on the pop-up in the middle. We've got a bunch of these little pieces. We've got these two longer rectangles, and then there are 5 of these smaller pieces. Now my pieces are going to look very slightly different from yours. Yours all on these little pieces are going to have this tile print on them. Mine had some different things and I realized I was making it too complicated. So these are all identical for you. So you don't have to worry about which ones you're using. They'll all have this tile print. So the first thing we need to do is crease all of these. The longer pieces have a fold line here, here, and here. There are 3 fold lines. After you've folded on all those lines, you should be able to turn this into a box shape. I also recommend folding these back and forth a few times so that they're broken in really well. That's going to help your pop-up be less stiff and not want to pop up quite as much when it's laying flat. So same thing for this one. You've got a crease here, here, and here. And then on these pieces, you're going to have a crease. 1, 2, 3, 4 creases. So we're going to be able to also turn this into kind of a little rectangle shape. And we're going to glue those tabs under. And again, I've folded these back and forth a couple of times just to kind of break them in so they're a little softer and easier to work with, and also will fold better mechanically when we make the pop-up. Once you have all of these folded, we're going to take these smaller ones and where it says tab, we're actually going to put a little glue on that tab. I wanted to differentiate it from the glue panels. Put a little glue on that tab and then we're going to make a closed rectangle like this by just sitting this glue panel right on top of the tab. I'll show you another one. So here we've got the tab. I'm going to turn this into a little rectangle. I'm going to put glue on the word tab and then just kind of pop that right on top so that we're making a closed box shape. These are going to be support pieces for the pop-up. So go ahead and repeat that for all 5 of these small pop-up pieces. All right, so I have all 5 of mine done, and I'm going to leave these to dry for a few. And let's go to our longer pieces. We're going to start with the one with the blue wood panels that match the bottom here. That's going to match the bottom print, and the tile. We're going to leave the one with the cat paws. That's our second one. So we're going to start with this one. Let's get everything centered back up. And I'm just going to turn this into a box. Now, if you're having trouble working with this because it is a little bit difficult without having them kind of attached together, you can grab a little bit of tape. Let me grab, got a little piece of Scotch tape here. You can use some washi tape, something like that. And we can just tack these together with a little bit of tape. We don't want to tab like we did on the other ones because that's going to add more bulk to the crease of the pop-up and cause it to want to lift up more here. So now we have something that looks like this, and it says glue on 2 sides. We have a tile print and the wood paneling, and this is going to situate with the tile print up, glue to the back, tile paneling or the wood paneling to the front, glue to the bottom, and it's going to go right into this corner. So let's put a little glue along both glue tabs. My tape has let go, but that's all right. Little glue on both glue tabs. We want the tile floor to be up. The wood paneling is facing us. And I'm going to center this up right into the corner and then lift this up. We want to lift up to a 90-degree angle and then nestle this right into the corner. And you can see I've pushed down on the top, make sure it's in the corner, push back on the bottom, and then as you fold, it should collapse. And then I can just give it a smush along here. I would give this a moment to dry before you mess with it too much. But I'm pulling it open, I'm checking, everything looks good, and then I'm going to check that action, and that looks pretty good. So this is never going to open more than a 90-degree angle. It will stand up just like that. And then you'll have your little pop-up, and then it folds back down. So that is the first piece of the pop-up. Next, let's go ahead and get all of the pieces with our women, our postal clerks on them. And I've selected 2. You can do 1 if you want. There's enough room to do 1 on each side here behind the counter, and I'll kind of show you how this is going to look, just like so. So you can do 2, you can do just 1. If you do 1, I recommend putting her to the left because we've got a little cat in a basket here on this side, and we'll have a little postal bag on this side. So it'll be more balanced if your single postal clerk is off to the left instead of everything being to the right. But you can do 2 clerks if you want to and have 1 on either side. So I've got my clerks, and you can see they come in a little rectangle, and I have fussy cut out the ones that I wanted to use. And all you're going to do is grab your scissors and just follow loosely around the outside edge of whichever lady you have chosen, just like this. Everything around her is matching the background she's going to be in front of, so you don't have to worry about it being too fussy. And you can see I've left quite a bit of material here at the bottom because she's going to glue into this pop-up like this, so we need plenty of things to attach with. So I'm going to go ahead and get 2 of my little cubes. You'll want them to be tile floor up. I know, again, mine's a little different than yours, but tile floor up. I have 2 because it's 1 for each woman. If you're only doing 1 postal clerk, then you only need 1. And this is going to glue to her back. So I'm going to put a little glue on the glue side. Tile floor is up. And this is going to go right behind her so that it is hidden by her body. And the height, exact height doesn't really matter as long as it's kind of below her head so that you're not going to see it from the front. We're just gluing that on, tile floor from the top. And then we're going to glue both that and her feet down. So glue on the other side. Glue on the back of the bottom where her feet are. And then I'm just going to place her. I'm putting the feet in. I'm raising this to a 90-degree angle. And then I'm going to touch where that back piece is so that it attaches to the panel. And you can see mine has not attached yet. You want to make sure that this little piece in the back, I'm going to grab my scissors, I'm going to slide that in there and give it a press down. It's a little easier if you're able to pick it up and look at it. I'm doing this on camera, it becomes a little more awkward. But there we go. You want to make sure that the piece behind her is square so that it will fold up properly. And you're going to need to let this dry well before moving on to the next part. But once it is dry, she will fold all the way up. There we go. So you might have to play with it just a little bit, but you can see how that moves as I open and close it, hopefully. So I'm going to do that again since it's a little bit tricky on the other side with my second lady. Again, I'm going to grab, it'll be tile floor side up. I'm going to put a little glue on the back. And then I'm going to place this on her back where it won't be seen. I'm going to try to make sure that is kind of square with the bottom. And then I'll put glue here and along her feet. And then I'll just place her right here. Make sure I'm in a 90-degree angle and then just get that pressed down behind her. And again, letting this dry really well before trying to move it is probably a good idea. So next, let's go ahead and get this other long strip. We're going to turn this just like the first one. We're going to turn this into a little square. Cat feet go on the front. Tile floor goes on the top. And we're going to put that glue. You can tape this if you want to make it easier to work with. I'm going to put this glue right on the panels that say glue. And then I'm just going to put this in right here over the feet of my postal clerks. Line it up so that it is side to side, lined up with the one behind it. And then check it from the side and make sure that everything looks good there. These should be like little cubes lined up here. And then we'll give that a fold and a little bit of a press. Open it back up, check everything, see if you need to do a little readjustment, and then let that dry before trying to play with it again. While that is drying, we have our post office counter, and we have a couple more of these little pieces. Again, tile will face up, and we're going to use these to support the top of the counter. So the counter is going to go in right like that. So that means that these pieces need to attach to our ladies down here in their skirts like that. And I'm going to make sure that my printed tile is facing upward. This is just an aesthetic thing. If you get one of these upside down, it doesn't matter. But when you look down through, you'll have that tile floor print instead of something that's plain. That's the reason for that. So I'm going to put a little glue and right on her skirt. Same thing with this one. Right there. And then I'll put a little glue on. You can let this dry between steps. It makes it just a little bit easier. I'll put a little glue on each of those, a little glue along here. And then I'm going to take my counter and I'm just going to line that up. Make sure this is at a 90-degree angle and then press those down. You might need to use your scissors and go from different angles to get those tabs kind of pressed firmly. I'm going to go this way, stick my scissors in, and just give that a press, and then turn it and do the same thing from the other side. Maybe this way, since I'm not a lefty. Just press up with those scissors. And then I'm going to check this, press it down, give everything a little bit of a light smush, and there we go. That is looking really fun. So all we have left now is our little mail bag, and the mail bag is going to sit right here. So we have our last little cube, and the tile floor, again, it will be the tile floor, not this wood, is going to face upward, and we're just going to attach that to the same way that we did the longer ones. And we're going to attach this. You need one more glue point on this, and that is going to be the bottom, because we need to glue it to the desk and also the floor, or else our mail bag is going to try to kind of take off. So glue on the back, glue also on the unprinted square on the bottom there. And then I'm going to place it kind of centered on this little wood panel here. I'm going to press down, and then I'm going to touch it to the floor. Again, we want everything to be at a 90-degree angle. So standing this up might make it a little easier. You just want to make sure that it's pressed into that corner, right like that, so that it's going to move with everything else. And then we're going to glue our mail bag right to the front of that. So I'm going to put my glue on the glue spot and then attach my mail bag right there. Give that a very gentle press. Check and make sure nothing has moved out of position. That looks pretty good. Everything is moving properly. And now this will actually kind of stand up and be a little bit of a diorama for you. And then it will press back down. I would let this dry really well before moving on, and then give this a really firm crease to kind of keep it down. Once everything is finished being put together, the weight of these panels is going to keep this shut. All right, so now we just have to fill up all of our pockets. Let's start with the cat cards. So these cards are made to fold in half, and then they will glue back to back. And you can use your glue stick or your liquid glue for this. But just like so, cute little back-to-back cards. And then we have a couple of envelopes here. These are just going to fold here and here to make a little envelope. And then we're going to glue right along the edges here to press this up and make them into a little pocket. So let's go ahead and do that. Actually, glue along the bottom of this. Glue along the sides of this bottom panel. There we go. And then press it up. That way you don't get glue up into this area here. So same thing on this one, 2 folds, and then glue along these little sides. Right like that. And then we have our key. If you missed my fussy cutting video on how to fussy cut double-sided fussy cuts, I will link that as well in the description down below. But we have a little double-sided key fussy cut. I'm just going to attach those 2 pieces together. And then let's slide our folio back over. This is going to want to pop up a little bit. You can use your bone folder to kind of press down on this gently. You don't want to kind of mangle this top panel, but pressing that is going to make it lay just a little flatter. But again, as you close this, there's kind of some weight to hold it shut, and there's space built in to accommodate that. So on this front panel, I've got, here's some little notes. There's a note for each envelope. And I am just going to pop a note into this envelope and close it up and tuck that into the pocket. And I think I'd like that to kind of stick out over. So I'm going to put it in and then let the little flap kind of flap. And then I'm going to grab one of my cat cards and tuck that in behind it. It might be a little bit of a tight fit. If it is too tight, grab your scissors and get in there and kind of loosen things up a little bit. I can see right here where I got a little too much glue. If you're worried about poking a hole, a bone folder works as well. And that's just going to make a little more space. And now I can tuck my cat card in and my little envelope, and I'm going to leave that flap free. I like the look of that. Over on the left-hand side, we have this card here that tells you about flitter paws. That is going to tuck right in here. And again, you can loosen that up a bit if you need to. And I'm going to put another one of these tags in. I'm going to kind of flip it so it sticks out this way. And we have another envelope. I'm going to glue this one fully down right here. And then you can add some sort of string to tie it shut or a fastener to keep it closed. I'm just going to live dangerously and let mine do what it wants. Have my other note to go inside. There we go. Tuck that down in there. And on the other side, we have the description of the post office boxes. That's going to tuck in here, along with our last flitter paw card. And then the key is going to slide right down through here. And because that is so thin, I definitely recommend lifting that up a bit before trying to slide the key inside. There we go. Right like that. And then the whole thing folds up into a neat little folio. So that is it for Whiskerwind Post. I hope you enjoyed this project. And if you would like to see more about Whiskerwind Post, maybe a story or more projects using this theme, let me know. I always listen when I have requests and I make little notes, and if something gets a lot of requests, it goes up the priority list. So be sure to leave a comment down below. Even if you just enjoyed the project, let me know. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.